for joining us for this afternoon's mini PD Institute on the DC One-Stop Operator, meeting the needs of employers and job seekers through the American Job Centers. Welcome, my name is Michelle Johnson. I'm the State Director for Adult and Family Education at the DC Office of the State Superintendent of Education. Additionally, want to thank Stacy Downey, a member of my team, who's been the glue pulling all this together. So thanks so much, Stacy, for that. Our presenters today are Deborah Russell and Karen Lorenz from the OneStop Operator's Office at the Workforce Investment Council, and also co-hosting this afternoon's Mini PD Institute is Dr. Heather Bruce with the University of the District of Columbia, and I'm going to let her welcome you as well.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Heather Bruce from the University of the District of Columbia. I'm the Director of the Adult Education Program. Welcome to this, our fourth session of the Professional Development Mini Institute. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are.
And then I'd also like to introduce you to another member of my team, Ms. Cynthia Brown, who's also on the webinar. Cynthia, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, Deborah, we're going to let you and Karen begin the session. Thank you.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to thank Michelle for giving us an opportunity to come and talk to you about the role of the DC One-Stop Operator. And I guess I want to start with, just a little personal, just thinking about, when you were in the process of finding your career, have you ever used the American Job Centers anywhere in the U.S. in order to find a job? Just think about that. And, have you ever attended a training that led to a certification as part of a federal government program? And if yes to either of those, did you connect to the American Job Center, and did that contribute to your career? So America's Job Center started out as what they called the One-Stop Shop. The idea was that, if you remember back in the day, you had to go to the employment agency, the unemployment agency to pick up unemployment. If you had, certain barriers, you had to go to a different agency and tell your story over and over and over again. The new legislation really looked at a way to combine all of those services under one roof, so that job seekers could go to what they called a one-stop shop to get all of the resources and information that they needed as it related to their search for employment or career. Here in the district, where are those American Job Centers? The headquarters is at 4058 Minnesota Avenue, right across from the subway station. The Northeast location is at the Bertie Backus campus on South Dakota Avenue in Northeast. And the Northwest location is at the Reeves Building on 14th Street. So anybody who is a district resident can go into an American Job Center and ask for assistance as they're looking for employment. So where does the One-Stop Operator fit into this? So the One-Stop Operator is the person, the group that coordinates all the service delivery within a one-stop center by working with those mandated partners. We are responsible for making sure that the services and the resources that are happening in the American Job Centers are quality, and are providing the kind of resources that residents need in order to be successful in finding a job. It was funny, Kieran and I were talking about this earlier, and there's so many more things besides what we're going to tell you about that we do in our role as a one-stop operator. And I was thinking about, kind of, we are really the glue or the connective tissue for the system. When things break down, our role as the one-stop operator is to identify solutions that get that system back up and running. So as Michelle introduced us, I tried to find pictures, but ran out of time. But Karen Lawrence is our community outreach coordinator and is responsible for the relationships that we have with our mandated partners, as well as relationships with our community-based organizations here in the district, particularly those that are connected to helping individuals find employment. I'm the director of OneStop Operations, and so Kieran and I are a team of two that work very closely together. So although I indicated those particular activities that Kieran is involved in, he is engaged in much, much more, again, as a team. And so in terms of one-stop operations, these are kind of the foundational activities that we are responsible for doing on a regular basis. One is that we keep a relationship with mandated partners, and we'll let you know who those mandated partners are. But these are the people, based on the federal regulations under WIOA, that indicate that these are the partners that are connected to the American Job Centers because of the services that they provide to the population that comes to the AJC. We're also responsible for staff development, ensuring that workforce development staff and those who are associated with workforce development and serve customers have the skills and resources in order to be successful in working with that demographic or with that population. So we are in the midst right now of providing WIOA case management training as part of a series where individuals, as at the conclusion, will receive their Certified Workforce Development Professional certification. And that kind of provides us with consistency across the system that staff who are responsible for workforce development are all singing out of the same hymn book, using the same tools and resources. We do a good bit of outreach and awareness about the American Job Centers and what kind of services are available to residents as well as businesses, because businesses also access the American Job Center looking for talent. We also, as I said before, work with community-based organizations, both to do outreach to them, but also to ensure that they're aligned with the system. We track customer performance and referrals, making sure that people are not either caught up in the system or get lost in the system, and that that referrals lead to successful outcomes. In the time of COVID, we are actually standing up 2 hiring events that Kieran will be talking about in more detail. And we also ensure that all customers that align with our mandated partners or with community-based organizations are registered in DC Networks. DC Networks is the repository where people go and upload their resume and also access resources, workshops, and all of that as it relates to workforce. So being registered in DC Networks is critical because that's also where businesses go looking for talent. I'm going to turn it over now to Kieran, who's going to talk about the work that he's been doing with partnerships.
Thanks, Deborah. So really a lot of my work is working in a system because, through workforce, it can't really be all a siloed approach. We have to be able to collaborate and work together, share ideas, share resources, be on the same page so that, everything we're doing is able to come to the best possible product. And so I thought it'd be helpful to go through just a brief overview of the partners that I work with as the OneStop operator and where their roles are in the system. So they're not actually a partner, but the Workforce Investment Council is under the Executive Office of the Mayor, and they provide a oversight over all workforce system, all partners across the district to ensure that everything is working together, to try to understand where there might be areas of need that they might need to address, stuff like that. And the Workforce Investment Council provides funding to Deborah and I. And so we work very closely with them to make sure all the other partners are aligned with the system. So the first partner we work with is DOES, the Department of Employment Services. They are the ones who run the American Job Centers in the district. So, you know, we don't have any say over who's coming in or what policies are with that. So we have to work very closely with DOES to make sure everyone's compliant, everything's working smoothly, and that customers are being able to receive employment. And so that's the main thing we work with DOES for. They also are a fiscal agent for WIOA in the district. So they have a variety of other workforce programs that, while we don't work as closely with, they also work with the Workforce Investment Council, the WIC, and others to ensure customers receive the adequate training and employment that they need in the district. And then they also have a Time and Client Services division that we are working with the virtual hiring event that I will mention a bit more later. And that is just a subsection of DOES. We know that they do a lot of other stuff, such as unemployment benefits and other things that we are not directly involved in. But that's really what we work with. And then the next one is Department of Human Services. We specifically work with the SNAP and TANF providers who are looking for customers with employment, as well as the Office of Work Opportunity. This is a general pretty big overlap because a lot of the customers are often looking for social services and other supports that they may be able to use. And it goes hand in hand with the SNAP and TANF requirements of customers seeking adequate levels of employment as they receive the benefits. And
Excuse
then
me,
we
Karen.
also,
I'm so sorry. This is Stacy. We have a couple people saying that they're not hearing. So I just want to see, can those who can hear just type a Y in the chat? I'm so sorry, Karen. I just want to make sure everybody gets all this great information. If you are not hearing, can you type an N? Well, that wouldn't work. I'll type it in. But okay, so a lot of people are hearing, but there's some who are not. Okay. Okay, so we do have, so it's just a few people. So I apologize. I just want to make sure that wasn't more widespread, but we saw it from at least two. Okay, a lot of people are hearing, so I'm sorry to interrupt. Please continue, and Michelle and I will troubleshoot in the chat with those 2 to 3 people who are not hearing. Apologize for the interruption.
Excuse me 1 second before you proceed, Karen. Can I ask the individuals that cannot hear, can you please put your email address in the chat? And Stacy, what I think we could do is cut and paste the link into an email to them, just to see if that might work otherwise. So anyway, please put your email address in the chat indicating I cannot hear. Thank you.
All right, so just returning back to the partners. So the Department of Disability Services, or DDS, we also work with for folks who deem they have a level of disability that they need assistance on receiving any type of employment. UDC we work with for adult family education programs that they provide for workforce and also for CASAS testing. Similarly with OSSI, we also work with CASAS testing, adult family ed, and also and we work very closely with Michelle, and also doing a little level of systems work across our referral network called Data Vault that all partners are using. DC Housing Authority, they're a little bit of a unique partner in that they have an employment center that operates very similarly to an American Job Center in the district. Anyone can come in, anyone can receive employment services. The difference with DCHA is that they are exclusively based in Southwest DC, which if you noticed Deborah's earlier slide, there is no current AJC actually in Southwest. So it's a really vital role that serves a lot of the district residents that are not able to access some of the other sites as easily. And also DCHA serves many residents of their DCHA properties across the district. It's not a requirement that people need to receive or need to be in a property, but many of their properties, you know, advertise and create awareness around it. So there's a lot of overlap with serving customers who also reside in DCHA properties. Potomac Job Corps is our only mandated partner that works with youth. They're a federal program that works with low-income youth to help them receive training, employment, and also it's a long-term program. So they are actually on a campus where they receive this training and they have the time and skills to be able to build up for the workforce. And then the National Caucus on Black Aging is our last partner, and they work the CSEP program, which is working with older, lower income folks who are looking for employment assistance, but often it's sometimes harder to come by due to a variety of other factors. So they work very closely to ensure all the district's residents are being able to be served as effectively as possible. Next slide, Deborah. Awesome. So those are all the partners that I work with.
Excuse me, Karen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you unshare and then reshare your screen again? Or Deborah, whichever.
Okay, that would be me.
Drive.
Yeah, hold on
Okay.
1 second.
Okay, thanks.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, Karen.
Yeah, sure. So all these partners, you know, we have to work in collaboration with, but it's also important that district residents are aware of what's happening. We're able to work with the partners to inform district residents because Deborah and I do not have any contact with any customers. We're all working at a systems level approach. And so one of the big things that we've been working on, and Deborah touched on earlier, is DOES has DC Networks, which is the central repository for job seekers, employers across the district, so they can access jobs, talent, education, training, labor market information, a variety of different things that are very important across the system. And so as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, those virtual services have been highlighted more than ever. It is more and more useful to be able to have that virtual level of contact, especially as the American Job Centers remain closed and many customers are unable to access these places in person. And so we view DC Networks as very important going forward. I know Deborah touched on it earlier that, you know, making sure customers are enrolled in DC Networks and making sure they are able to access the updated information that they need. Now, with that being said, we know that providers also need to understand, and agencies, how DC Networks works so they can help customers enroll if they're unable to do so themselves. So we're working very closely with Department of Employment Services and Department of Human Services to stand up a training. It's actually happening 2 days from now, August 13th, where DOES will be providing training on how to enroll customers in DC Networks to a variety of many providers and agencies that will be there, so they can understand, so they can bring that information back to their customers and really, you know, share what we are able to bring forward. And so DC Networks has, you know, a big application with the job fair. One of the requirements is it's requiring people who participate in the virtual hiring event, among other things, need to be enrolled in DC Networks. But also just in general, jobs are shared, workshops are being stood up online. So it's a very useful resource. So we also wanted to make sure that we know not every agency and every provider is going to reach as many customers as possible who just walk in and ask about it. So we also are working with a creative firm to create some materials that her partners will be able to distribute that highlights how DC Networks works, the reasons for it, kind of what I just outlined below, how to enroll if you're unable to do so, and also places that you can go across the district where you can receive help to enroll yourself in DC Networks if possible. And so these are the same places that are going to be having the training 2 days from now. So it's a larger list of places. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it's around 35 or so different providers and agencies that will be working as intake points to help customers if they are unable to enroll themselves. And to stress, like, customers can enroll themselves, but we understand some may have barriers or other things that prevent them from being able to do it all on their own. So we want to make sure everyone in the district who's looking to be enrolled in DC networks is able to do so. And then Deborah, can you do that next slide?
Yes. Give me a second. I'm having a little problem. Hold on one second.
All right. So one of the other things that I work on, and as you can see, the things I'm doing covers a wide variety of different areas, is training and staff development. And so this is also working with partners to ensure that their staff are able to be up to date and trained on a variety of different topics related to workforce, and also maybe seemingly slightly less related to workforce, but more about well-being, to ensure that staff have the tools they need to be successful in their jobs. And so far this year, we've offered several trainings. The first two, the equal opportunity training, as well as the ADA compliance training, those are mandated trainings by the Department of Labor. Equal opportunity is ensuring that customers are able to receive, equal access. They're not discriminated based upon race, disability, anything like that. And so that was a really important mandated training that we hosted earlier this year for management, so they can understand how to implement that into their own agencies and work with their HR departments. The next training was ADA compliance. This was in the American Job Centers for DOES customers. And this is making sure that employees understand how different apparatuses and things that are able to assist people with disabilities are able to work in the AJC. So if someone was to come into the AJC needing assistance with one of these machines, they would be able to receive that assistance from any of the staff, and they were all trained and understood how to use it. The next training was vicarious trauma. Definitely at first doesn't necessarily seem related to workforce, but we understand working in a frontline job, there's a lot of trauma that customers can be exposed to from their customers, either directly or indirectly, from hearing stories to maybe even experiencing something while on the job. And so for those who don't know, vicarious trauma is the understanding that even if you have not received direct trauma yourself, hearing about trauma or witnessing trauma over and over repeated times in places such as a workforce can actually have impacts on you similar to that of having impact from experiencing direct trauma. So it's a really important topic to make sure people are both aware of how they're feeling, what they're experiencing, as well as how to take care and provide adequate self-care for themselves in this time. Because if you're not able to take care of it, you don't recognize it, you can get burnt out very easily and both have maybe your work product suffer, but also more importantly, want to make sure that your own mental well-being is also okay as well. And so the next training, kind of in line with the pandemic as well, was offering how to work in a virtual environment. We had a trainer who specialized in remote learning, and so they were, even before the pandemic, and so they were able to offer a lot of tips and tools about how to utilize things working for customers, hosting trainings such as the ones that we're hosting right here, as well as presentations like the one we're on right now, working with different platforms like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, all sorts of different video conferencing platforms and the pros and cons between all of them. So people feel they have the right tools and they understand the equipment they need to perform their jobs the best. And then the next training is something Deborah also touched on earlier. This is a longer series of trainings. It was an 8-part series that is actually wrapping up tomorrow. And it was a training for frontline workers for understanding really how WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, impacts their case management and their customers. And so this training really touched on a variety of issues from adults and dislocated workers, youth workers, targeted populations, understanding data, business services. It ran a whole wide range of different areas that were tackled in the workforce system. And at the end of it all, it's enough information for participants that they can apply for their certified workforce professional credential with all this information. They're able to do an application where they have to answer some questions that directly relates to the information they were provided. And also people who are in the training also receive like homework assignments and stuff like that to really practice for this credential if they're interested. The next training is a little bit similar to the case management one, but instead of focusing on frontline staff, it focuses on management level staff to make sure they understand all the implications and policy around WIOA and how it impacts their programs as well. And then the last one, touched on earlier, but the DC Networks training that will be offered in 2 days to over 100 different providers and agencies in the district to understand how DC Networks works. Deborah, you can go to the next slide. And so the next thing I work with, being community outreach and partner coordination, is working with community-based organizations. And so, we recognize that there isn't a ton of overlap sometimes between community-based organizations and district agencies, or if there is, it's a very specific one where only one agency is aware of this community-based organization. And so we really are looking at it to target, from a strategic approach, agencies that are targeting high levels of populations, similar targeted populations with the customers that are in the workforce system, as well as looking as a way for barrier mitigation. A lot of customers in the workforce system, we understand, have a variety of barriers, from legal barriers to mental health barriers to immigration status barriers that sometimes can be an impediment to employment. And so working with these community-based organizations that are able to specialize in some of these specific barriers to help the customers remove those barriers, as well as at the same time working towards a job for employment, or maybe removing the barrier and then working for the job, but really making sure it's a holistic approach and that customers are able to receive all of the support that they need. And so with that understanding, we actually took this to the partners that I mentioned earlier to really collaborate with them, see if there are any community-based organizations that partners worked with earlier, or if they currently work with and they wanted to keep working with at a more higher level, as well as just, putting that list together to really ensure that everyone was kind of on the same page with who we were looking to target, and really making sure it was aligned within the workforce system. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it may be some organizations work with some agencies, or maybe they don't work at all, and really trying to bring that all together so agencies and community-based organizations are able to share resources, share information, and are able to better have more continuity across their customer base. Deborah, if you want to go to the next one. And I'm going to turn it back over to Deborah. That's a little bit of what I do. I'll talk a little bit more in a bit about the virtual hiring event, but that's a lot of the partner alignment coordination that I do to really hopefully ensure that the workforce system is working and operating as smoothly as possible. And with that, Deborah.
Hi, Deborah and Karen, can we respond to a few questions that we have?
100%, yes.
Yes. Oh yeah, I need to
Perfect.
see that. Yes.
Before we get too far down the road in the presentation, let's see. Someone asked whether or not Dana Campbell asked about sharing details about how to access to DC Network. So is that DC Network training available to anybody and everybody?
Actually, at this point, no. We have over 100 people in this training. We realized when we started this that there was a lot more interest. So a couple things. One, if you have an interest, please let Michelle know so that we can start forming a list, because we can do this again. And then second of all, Kieran is going to talk a little bit about, or at least if he hasn't, we are putting together outreach materials about DC Networks as well that will give customers a step-by-step on how to register, but also where the access points are where they can go and get help, or say access to a computer so that they can register. So if you are interested in the DC Networks training, from the perspective of how to help your customers, please let Michelle know, and we will look to do one again. Unfortunately, there were just a lot of people, and so we've concluded the list at this point.
No worries, and we'll work with you to schedule.
Absolutely,
Special
100%.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you. And then Dana also asked, how do I access those agencies? And Dana, are you talking about the WIOA Core Partner agencies? I'm not exactly sure which agencies you're referencing. Could you elaborate on that?
Hi, Michelle, this is Dana. I'm here. So
Okay.
I think she answered my question in its entirety when she was referring to when the next DC Networks trainings are going to be available so that we can assist our students to create accounts and log in and maneuver around the system.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
Wonderful. There was another question about the difference between DC Works and DC Networks.
So as it turns out, DOES evidently changed the name. And so on the website, you'll see it called DC Works. And this is fairly new as a result of them expanding the site because of all of the virtual services that they're providing. So if you type in dcworks.gov, you should be able to access the same thing. It's the same thing. The long and the short of it.
Perfect. And also the WIC, the Workforce Investment Council, their website is DCWorks, .dc.gov. So there's a lot of overlap in these names.
Yeah, well, that's something they'll have to deal with. We just happened to have noticed the other day that in fact it had been changed. So
yes.
At this point, either one will get you there.
Okay. Stacy, let's see. Stacy, do you see any other questions? Does anyone, I can't see, as far as the chat is concerned, I don't see anything else. Do you see anything?
No, you covered the ones that I saw as well. But are we able to say, I think that some of the people who have re-logged back in, if you were someone who was reporting that you could not hear, if you have logged back in using the link that we gave you, would you just type yes, I hear now in the chat so that we know that you're good and we can just work with those one or two who might still be having trouble. Oh, good, great. Okay, I think it's working better. Thank you.
Did you mention that there were trainings that providers could take?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working, so the training that we do right now is staff development training for the staff that represent the mandated partners. However, we are looking at expanding staff development training for those folks who are responsible for helping customers with employment. So right now, the trainings that we offered have come to an end. But as we're looking to stand up new staff development training, we will be working with our agency partners like OSSI to let other individuals who are part of the system know about these trainings. So nothing exclusive about it. This was kind of our first attempt of, starting a training program that will be tiered. So if you're new to workforce development, there will be one suite of training. If you are more advanced in workforce development, there'll be another suite of training. And then there will be a suite of training for individuals who are in leadership, management, decision-making levels, which is what Kieran alluded to about the WIOA training for management. So more to come on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so if there aren't any more questions, and please feel free, this is great. Love all the questions. I'm going to keep going. One of the other things that we are responsible for is tracking performance and tracking referrals. Why is this important? This is important for a few reasons. It's important to know whether a customer's experience was positive as they are being referred from one agency to another. Another reason is it gives us an idea of what kinds of resources are needed, during a referral process. And so that is something that we are working on, and OSSI has taken the lead in standing up Data Vault, which is a referral platform, and it's way more than that. But right now, step one is really, how do we stand this up as a way to refer customers from one agency to another. This is the role of the one-stop operator to be able to, track referrals. The other thing that we track is performance. How many people are being enrolled in programs? How many get access to training? What kind of training are they getting? Are they completing training? Are they getting a certification? Are they getting a job, that's aligned to the training? So we do a lot of analysis in looking at quality of training. If people aren't passing a particular training, why not? What's the issue? How many people are getting jobs, and if they're not, is it because of barriers? What are the barriers that we are seeing so that we can start addressing that? Certainly right now in this pandemic, we have gone completely virtual. And we are beginning to see huge equity issues between the people that have access to technology and those who don't. And so how are we addressing that? What roles do agencies like libraries and others might play in order to help us, pull that gap together so there's less of a gap for those who don't have that type of technology. So that's why it's important for us to track things like performance and referral to help inform how successful the system is in serving both customers who are job seekers as well as businesses. This problem again. I apologize for some reason it will not advance. Give me 1 second again, sorry. Okay, so we were talking a little bit about some upcoming virtual hiring events that we're doing. This is new to the role of One-Stop Operations, and I guess it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, at the top of this presentation. Oftentimes, we are also have to also react to what is happening around us, right? So with COVID, as I said before, we have gone from being, in-person services to completely, virtual services. And so with that came the idea of, having these virtual hiring events. And it made sense for One-Stop Operations to play the role in hosting these events. So I'm going to turn it over to Kieran to talk a little bit about these hiring events and how they're going to work. And then I'll talk about why we chose those industries and what's going on in the labor market today. So Kieran?
Sure, thanks, Deborah. So really the hiring events, we're working with a smaller subsection of the mandated partners that I mentioned earlier to really kind of plan the background information, how the tracking is going to work, how people are going to, monitor it if they receive jobs, and if they don't receive jobs, like what happens. But really the information that we're looking at is there is that virtual hiring event that will be happening September 1st and also September 15th on construction and healthcare. Now, this is like a targeted virtual hiring event, and so we had sent this information to the mandated partners, and they will be sending that out to their staff to determine what customers are eligible for this event. There's a checklist of items that they need to have met to be considered job ready. This is a variety of things from resume and cover letter to also being enrolled in DC networks. So once people have met that checklist and they're deemed an appropriate referral, they are sent over to Department of Employment Services, and then there will be a pre-event, if you will, before the hiring event, where customers can learn the ins and outs of how the event will be happening. It will be happening over Zoom, and so some people may not be familiar with Zoom, or Maybe they've used it, but they're a little iffy. And so the event will be employers broken out into different breakout rooms across Zoom, and customers will be then placed into the breakout rooms to speak with employers, so they're able to receive that more personal attention for the job interview. And so there will be a previous event for customers to go over Zoom, as well as a workshop to make sure any last minute resume changes or anything like that, they want to make sure they're all perfectly ready for the job. And so we're very excited about these two events. As of now, they are closed to the partners and their providers that they sent them to. We're trying to keep it at a reasonable list because we don't want to have too many people looking for jobs and not enough positions. And so right now we're looking at around roughly 5 employers for the construction, and the healthcare one, we're still figuring out that one as well. So they're going to be a little bit smaller, but because they're targeted, we're hopeful that the people who are going to them are more likely to receive the jobs because we know they pass all of the prerequisites that employers are looking for. And so we really, as Deborah mentioned, we're focusing on construction and healthcare due to labor market information. And so I'm actually going to turn it over back to Deborah to talk more about why we chose to focus on those industries during this pandemic.
Thanks, Karen. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time on is understanding what's happening in the labor market, and as a result of COVID, it's even more important. So we use a source called Burning Glass, which provides local, timely information about the labor market here in the DC metropolitan area. So that would include Virginia and Maryland. Right now, as of August, the jobs are in Washington, Arlington, Alexandria, and Gaithersburg. Those are where the large numbers are. As a matter of fact, in DC, there are over 6,000 job openings right now. In terms of who's hiring, Sodexo. If you're not familiar with Sodexo, they are a food service company. They provide food service both for airlines, but as well as large businesses. Their headquarters is in Gaithersburg, so it makes sense that there's a large hiring opportunity in that area. Amazon, we are all very familiar with Amazon, lots of warehouse related kinds of jobs, and they're located right over the bridge, but they're also in Baltimore, in that area. Lowe's Company, we're all familiar with Lowe's, and Georgetown University Hospital, again, huge need for healthcare, contact tracers, phlebotomists, runs the gambit. I don't know why this isn't forwarding. I apologize for this, folks. And so what industries? Clearly healthcare and social assistance, retail, accommodations and food service, professional science and technical assistance. So you can see that some of these jobs require people to have some sort of degree. But you also see that there are opportunities for folks who may be at the beginning of their career. So as we look at some of these industries, we can see very clearly what's not there. Hospitality isn't there. Airline in those areas, or not, transportation isn't there. And so as we look at how we help our customers pivot from maybe one industry that they were in, how do we help them take the skills that they have and translate them into new opportunities? Obviously, some of these occupations, again, registered nurse, that's not something that takes a little bit of time in order to achieve. But there has been a huge need for registered nurses in this area for many years. I will also say that certified nurses assistants, home health care workers, especially during this COVID time, having a hard time finding people that are willing to go into other people's homes and care for them. Retail. You know, and a lot of this is also by phone. So, you know, can you do sales on the phone? So having people that have good customer service skills. You see sales representatives in wholesale and manufacturing, first line supervisors, and computer user support. You know, there are, you know, lots and lots of need for remote help desk assistance. And then the kind of specialized skills that you need. Someone that has good customer service skills, so that we know that someone who's in hospitality or the restaurant business who have good skills can be transferred into other occupations during this time. Scheduling, you know, administrative skills, sales, customer contact, again, requiring customer service. Retail industry knowledge, because again, warehousing, the Amazons and others of the world are needing those kinds of people. And then cleaning. Why? Because we have new OSHA guidelines for what's considered a clean building or a clean bathroom or a clean area given COVID. And then these are the baseline skills. These are what we would call the soft skills, right? So what's important? Communication skills. Because what are we doing most of the time? Talking in a virtual environment. You're talking to folks on the phone all day long. So having good communication skills. Physical abilities, why? Because again, warehousing, delivery, all of those kinds of things. Good organizational skills, teamwork and collaboration, detail-oriented, problem-solving, Microsoft Office. So this begins to give you an idea of the kinds of skills that your customers are going to need in order to be successful in this market. So again, as we look at standing up these virtual hiring events, we have produced a checklist for case managers so that they know these are the things that the employers are going to be looking for. You know, not just the occupational skills, but these are the, you know, for lack of a better word, soft skills that we're going to be looking for in an ideal candidate. So these are the kind of ongoing information that we like to give our agency partners so that they also understand what the labor market looks like in real time, because we're going to have to be very flexible. We're going to have to be very flexible and very innovative in this time because as industries come and go, we're going to have to be in a position to help our customers be able to pivot in this time. So with that, I thank you for your time, Karen and I. And like I said at the top of this time, you know, our job oftentimes is, you know, being able to come up with innovative or sound solutions for problems that come our way. We provide models, best practices. We provide subject matter expertise in order to make sure that our partners have the resources that they need in order to help the customers that come into the American Job Centers. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that folks may have.
So everyone has the ability to unmute themselves and ask their question that way. You're also welcome to type it into the chat if you don't have a microphone with you, but you should have the ability to unmute yourself. You can do that by clicking on the microphone icon in the bar, the Microsoft Teams bar that has an icon of a video camera, microphone, hand, people, etc.
Yes, I have a question. Hello?
Yes, please.
Yes. My name is Renee Smith. I'm from the DC Department of Human Services with the TANF program. I would like to know the name of the website you said you use for labor market information. You use another organization to gather all of your data?
Yeah, it's a system called Burning Glass, and it's, I believe you have to have a subscription in order to access the information.
Okay, so if I wanted to research labor market information, I can go to the DOES website and pretty much get that information?
That's not where, unfortunately, that's not where I got this information. But if you go to DOES and you type in labor market information, there are a lot of sources there as well. But this particular information that I provided you is from a resource that provides almost weekly updates on what's going on in the local labor market. A lot of times, one-stop career centers, WIOA, economists will use this data because it provides them more real time. A lot of time, labor market information can be a little bit dated.
Well, I understand. Thank you.
Sure.
Renee, hi, this is Michelle. I also want to encourage you to participate in, well, everyone, but I'm bringing this to your attention. If another resource that we make available to our providers and partners is Career Coach DC. There's a webinar tomorrow. Well, we have two webinars tomorrow. One focused on distance, all types of distance learning resources that you might want to take advantage of. But we have one tomorrow on Career Coach DC. It is, they're doing some work for OSSE and also trying to make it available through Career Coach updates on labor market information. There's links, opportunities for students to apply and customers to apply for jobs. So, you know, check it out tomorrow. That might be an additional resource. And I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at modifications to the WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act State Plan. That, Deborah, that includes some updates because we worked on that.
Yes.
What, April, May, June. So
of last year, yeah.
Yeah. So you might want to look at the new proposed Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act State Plan that has an analysis of what's going on in the city and our plans to work. All those organizations that Karen had up on the screen earlier, the plans for us to meet the needs of district residents.
All right.
So take a peek at that.
Yes, I'll be in that session as well.
Okay.
Good. I will second Career Coach. It is a really, really good resource. And I believe that they pull a lot of their data from Burning Glass. So that's great.
And Stacy put the links. Stacy, you put the link to Career Coach. That's a resource we make available to everybody for free. And she also put the link to the DC Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Unified State Plan. You guys should try to check that. You know, if you want to know, I think we did a really good job this go round scaling down the goals and strategies. Wouldn't you agree, Deborah? I think that before we were trying to do too much.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just too much in our initial plan, but the one that we're proposing for 2021 through 24, fiscal year 24, I mean, it's streamlined. So take a peek at those goals and the strategies, look at the labor market information, anything and everything you want to know about what's going on in each of the DC government agencies, what programs and services they offer. You can get a snapshot of that in the WIOA Unified State Plan. I think people underestimate its value. And it's, you know, when you're grappling with trying to connect your customers to resources, you're not going to find a better resource than that state plan.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think we have a question. Oh, Terhaz, yes, it is included in the chat for those individuals, the PowerPoint for those individuals who have access to Microsoft Teams and the DC Government Network. But we did ask please make sure, everyone, that you put your email address in the chat, and we'll send the PowerPoint presentation out via Microsoft Outlook as well. Deborah, I wanted to ask a question like, okay, we're all, trying to develop programming in light of the pandemic to meet the education and workforce needs of district residents. Do you perceive that that the district, and I know we talked about this on the OneStop on our check-in session on Friday, but I just was interested in seeing what you envision. What kind of strategies will the district put in place to help us keep pace with the changes? Potential changes in the labor market, as well as, how do we, based on what you and Karen shared, looks like you guys are coming up with some pretty innovative ways to keep us connected with employers and industry. But I just wanted to know, what do you see in the future?
That's a really good question, Michelle, and a really loaded one. So a couple things. One is, I know that the Workforce Investment Council is looking to stand up, and OSSI has done this too, industry roundtables, where they're talking to employers in the same industry, and the first one that they're standing up is healthcare, to better understand, what they see coming in the future in terms of the skills that they're going to need, the occupations that they're going to need, and how we can get ahead of that by building pipelines of talent that will be ready for the jobs that are coming. So I think keeping our ear to the ground and understanding what businesses are doing is going to be critical. We have OneStop Operators have created a really good partnership with the Talent and Client Services Department in the Department of Employment Services, so that we can get a better understanding of who they're talking to, in terms of employers and what they're saying. And in fact, Michelle, we're going to ask them to join us on our Friday partner meetings, because it is a clear void in our conversation, which is what's happening on the business side. I think also that there is going to be more resources to help job seekers. There are a lot of job seekers out there that are going to be successful in finding their own path, if they have the right resources in front of them. And so having resources all in one place, and also having customer choice. So a list of all kinds of different places you can go and get help with resume writing. Different workshops that maybe are more customized based on where you are in your career. I'm very far into my career. I'm unlikely going to go to a workshop for people who are at that entry level. So what are we doing? How are we doing a better job of customizing? We had a long conversation with youth teams about how do we better help youth who are coming out of high school, are not on a post-secondary track, or even those who have been out for a while and have not been able to find their way. And then, most importantly, making sure that those individuals that were already struggling with employment pre-COVID, that we don't let them fall too far into the cracks, particularly as we look at the issue around equity as it relates to access to technology and just access to resources. So I feel like, on a regular basis, we're going to be looking at making sure that targeted populations are being served, making sure that information is getting into the hands of folks, and taking into consideration that not everybody has a computer, and so being able to access training and things like that, we have to make those available to everyone. And then second of all, just making sure that as agencies, that we keep the communication open. So, one of the things we do as OneStop Operator is we track both community-based organization and agency activities, particularly virtual service provisions as they change, and try to send that information out to everyone so everyone knows, if there's been a change in the way a service is being provided, that sort of thing, that we're keeping, people abreast. But, again, we're going to have to be willing to be flexible and innovative. And I've seen a lot of that because of COVID. It's amazing how a pandemic all of a sudden loosens up the way that government is willing to handle processes and procedures. And so hopefully we'll learn from that and know that we can turn on a dime, and that we should not let bureaucracy, get in the way of, helping all of these people who are out of work. In our virtual hiring event meeting today, the person who is the talent and client services said, you know what, at the end of the day, I don't care what we have to do. It's about helping our customers get jobs. Yeah. And I said, you know what, amen. That's exactly how I feel. So, I think that, again, I thank you, Michelle, for all the resources that you talked about, because I think that we also have to be, all of us, information hogs. Things change on a daily basis. Start creating a list of sites that you go to, kind of your go-to sites to get that kind of information, because things are happening so quickly that oftentimes if you're not, kind of keeping up yourself, it's hard, for that constant sending out of information. So also be a person who is curious about what's going on. Go on to the DOEL website. If you're not connected to GPS Workforce, sign up for it. It has great information, workshops, resources on what's going on in workforce development as well. But we have to be much, much more proactive in the way that we are as a workforce development industry.
Thank you so much. I want to take this opportunity to thank both, Deborah, you and Karen, for facilitating this afternoon's PD Institute. We've learned a lot about the OneStop Operator, the roles and responsibilities of DOES and DC networks, and how we can better serve our customers. I want to thank everyone who participated on the webinar. We will continue to keep you apprised of other professional development opportunities. We hope you join us tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow morning for our the last day of our mini PD Institute, where we'll be talking about distance learning, a phenomenal presentation. We have a lot of working with World Education. There's so many valuable resources that you can take advantage of to learn how to best serve your customers at a distance. I don't care what kind of service it is. You'll learn some strategies for developing a plan for how you meet the needs of DC residents and their career coach in the afternoon. Dr. Bruce, would you like to share some parting words with everyone?
Just wanted to add to all that you've said. This has been amazing. I want to thank our presenters. And I hope we would have the opportunity of offering this again, because I can think of so many people who would have benefited from this presentation today as we, ponder the next thing, the more things we can do to help our citizens in the District of Columbia. So thank you, both presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stacey, anything you'd like to add?
You.
Okay. Please just make sure you put your information in the chat, your email address. If you didn't get the PowerPoint, you couldn't download it out of the chat, we'll email it to you via Outlook. So everyone, see you tomorrow. Have a blessed evening. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.